Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, keeping dairy contracts fair and how you can help preserve things like this. But let's start on a ranch in the Midwest of the USA. It's owned by Larry Stomprud, who's the third generation of his family to run it. And he's taking a slightly different approach with his 6,600 acres, mixing ranching with conservation. Anna Jones visited on a scorching hot day and joined Larry in search of his Black Angus cattle.
Right now we're in one of my summer pastures. We're on our way to check my cattle. There's about 225 in this herd.
I've been to South Dakota a few times. A lot of the time it's sort of brown, but it's incredibly green and lush.
Rain.
You don't normally get much of that though, right?
We have been blessed with a great July.
I can see cattle. Here they are.
I don't think we're not gonna cross here. If you want to go see cattle, we're gonna have to walk from here.
Okay, let's go. Larry's getting his straw hat on. Larry, it's so fragrant out here. What is that nice smell?
Probably the sage.
Oh wow, that filled my nostrils when I stepped out the car. And what a welcome onto the prairie. That is a beautiful scent. You probably don't even notice it anymore, right?
Oh, I can smell it, but I don't pay much attention to it.
I think when you're in a new environment, these things hit you more. Just walking up and down the creek bed looking for a dry bit.
Here's a place for your little short legs.
Whoop! Yep, there we go. We're across. Hike up the other side. There they are. Is there a bull running with them?
There's 12 bulls.
There's 12 bulls. They don't fight over there.
Oh yes, they do.
You just let them get on with it.
They sort the pecking order out. We are what they call cow-calf operation. We calve our cows in May and June.
So that means you're not finishing cattle, what we would call finishing or fattening.
No, we generally wean them at about 5 months, and then we'll what they call background them for another 45 to 60 days, and then sell them to a feedlot operation.
So what is background them?
It's just post-weaning. You don't put them on full feed.
Do they go to feedlots in South Dakota or further afield?
In some cases they'll go to South Dakota, but most of the time, the last several years, they've gone to either Nebraska or Iowa.
And how long are they in the feedlot before slaughter?
They generally slaughter them at about 13 to 16 months.
Now, we hear a lot about feedlots in the UK, and it's not always positive. Some people view the feedlot system as a highly intensive system that's feeding high levels of grain. What do you think are the perceptions of American beef across the pond in Europe and in the UK?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Rather than abuse our animals, we try and make them just as comfortable as we can, because when they're comfortable, they gain more, they're more profitable for us. So it's to our benefit to take care of them well.
Larry Stomprud there, and more from South Dakota on Sunday morning at 6:30 in On Your Farm. That's here on BBC Radio 4. Now, with dairy companies here in the UK continuing to cut the prices they pay farmers for milk, the man appointed to ensure fairness and transparency in the UK agricultural supply chain says he'll be watching out for any breaches over the coming months. Richard Thompson is the first person in this new adjudicator role, looking first at the dairy supply chain. His report, which covers the year from July 2024 to June 2025, says some farmers are still afraid to speak out in case of reprisals. But Mr. Thompson told me that his role is helping.
For some farmers, that's meant even having a written contract in the first place. So some farmers I've spoken to over the last year have said either it's the first time they've had a written contract or the first time it's been updated since the 1980s in one instance, one farmer I was talking to. But contracts now must have much greater transparency and set out the terms of business between a milk purchaser and a farmer, including important features like describing if a milk price changes, if there's a variable price under a contract, setting out the factors on which that price change takes place. So a farmer should have a much better ability both to predict how milk prices may change in the future, but also to check and to challenge if they don't think that that price has changed fairly and in accordance with what the contract says.
As you mentioned in the report, milk prices are under pressure at the moment. We've seen cuts of 3.5 pence a litre, 3 pence a litre. How can you ensure that there's still going to be fairness in this supply chain?
So the regulations help ensure that farmers receive a fair price for their milk. And as I say, ensure much greater transparency about how that price is calculated. But ultimately, of course, prices will continue to be determined by the market itself, the new regulations. And my role isn't to seek to set or control the milk price itself. But farmers should have much more confidence that they're only bearing a fair share of the risks and the costs if milk prices do fall. And they should have a much better understanding of the factors that impact the milk price and be better able to plan ahead as a result. I mean, a fair price is ultimately what the market can sustain and deliver. And many farmers I've spoken to in recent months recognise that in terms of oversupply, the market price is going to be depressed.
You do mention in the report that there is some nervousness in people coming forward. Are people getting in touch with you?
So they are, yes. During the first year of operation, we didn't receive any formal complaints, but we've had 15 farmers come forward with particular issues they wanted to talk to us about in confidence. And in most of those cases, we've been able to use that information to speak to either individual processors or their represented bodies to seek to influence and to change things for the better. But as our report established, there is still a very real fear, I think, on the part of many farmers and worries about coming forward and putting a formal complaint in. And that's why we introduced our new In Confidence channel earlier this year so that farmers could come and talk to us completely in confidence.
Now, you may have noticed cattle vanishing from the fields as they come inside to protect the grass for spring. For livestock farmers, this marks the start of months of daily feeding and changing bedding. And as part of our week looking at winter farming jobs, we're off to the North York Moors with Mark Burrell. He'd always dreamed of owning his own farm and 6 years ago secured a tenancy of 200 acres, which he's built up to more than 400 sheep, 30 suckler cows, a calf-rearing enterprise and a fencing contract business. Sarah Falkingham joined him on the farm.
So what's on the task list this morning, Mark?
So we're feeding these young calves milk and some cake.
So that's your high-protein grain-based feed, and coming into a barn here with these lovely little black faces, they're all anticipating feeding.
Yeah.
And how many calves have you got in this barn here?
There's 27 in here.
How old are they?
5 or 6 weeks now. These will come off a dairy farm, and these will just end up getting fattened up. So we'll send them on at about 6 months of age.
Are these a mixture of boys and girls?
Yeah, so that's tomorrow's job, is the vet's coming to castrate and dehorn them, to take the horns off so they don't get dangerous as they get older.
We've got a small tank here on wheels, and this is ready mixed milk, is it?
Yeah, well I've tipped a bag of milk powder in and then stirred it up with a drill to mix it up. It's just warm water.
So the milk's being poured into this semicircular container that hangs off a gate, and there's 10 little compartments at the bottom which exit out to a teat, and that way each calf has got its own supply. So guzzling away, tails wagging.
It's been quite bad for pneumonia as well with the weather. It's been hot and then cold hot, like big fluctuations in temperature. So last week it was -3 one morning, the next morning it was +13. So it's hard for them to regulate.
I have come on a glorious day, Mark, I have to say.
Yeah,
you can see for miles and miles. I can see moors, russet brown moors and forest green glades and sheep grazing ahead of us here as we walk down into this barn. But we've had some relentless rainy days.
Yeah, Saturday night we had 30 mil through the night. That was come real quick, so it's washed a lot of tracks away, stone off tracks and things like that, and blocked a lot of gutters. So that's all to sort out, unfortunately.
Another winter job.
Yeah.
The mud can get to you, can't it, sometimes?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's horrible. Mud. It's just, when it's relentlessly mud, there's mud all every day, it's just, you don't really want to go out in it. Well, nobody would they?
So you've got a round bale here of straw, which you're cutting the string off.
So this is to bed these cubicles.
And these are individual compartments for...
Yeah, for cows. And then they go around the other side for silage. Everything's going to come in, well, probably this afternoon. So they'll all be in here, and that'll be it. This will be it for the next 4 or 5 months anyway.
Farmer Mark Burrell there. Next, could there be a more traditional sound? Well, for some, that's fabulous. For others, not so much. But rural traditions from Morris dancing to Eisteddfods and crafts like dry stone walling or tartan weaving could be internationally protected. Today, the government launches its search for UK living heritage to create an inventory of traditions. It's the first time the UK has taken part in this. UNESCO began an international list in 2008. It includes Iranian carpet weaving, baguette making in France, and a coaxing tradition for camels from Mongolia. Baroness Fiona Twycross, Heritage Minister in the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, want your nominations.
This is about what communities themselves value and want to shout about and want to have recognition. So the inventories are going to be shaped by communities around the country, with living heritage traditions being submitted on behalf of the people who practice them themselves. So submissions are open for the next 4 months, with the hope that we can draw up our first UK inventory later next year. So we're really keen for everyone who practices a heritage tradition to work with their community and submit their practice to our living heritage inventory.
So you have to be doing it rather than just watching it. You have to be a Morris dancer or a cheese roller or a teller of Scottish folk stories.
Yes, absolutely. And I think there's so many different groups, and I think you've given some really good examples of the type of traditions we've got. It's an enormous stock-taking exercise, in effect, to try and identify all the living heritage traditions across the country.
And do they all then make it onto a UNESCO list, or do you have to winnow them down a bit?
Well, there's an independent review panel that will check whether each submission meets the criteria for joining the inventory, but they're not going to be making a value judgment or limiting the numbers of things that can go on, or making an assessment of the significance or importance of the submissions. There isn't a limit on how many submissions can be made.
In the nicest way, what's the point?
I think this is about making sure that we recognise the real wealth of tradition across the country and the heritage that is not just part of a museum exhibition, or it's what people practice and it's what people value. These are things people cherish, and we want to make sure that we recognise these for future generations as well. So these may be things, as in my case, my mum's taught me how to make jam. She's taught me how to make marmalade, shortbread and scones. I want future generations to get insight into that kind of culinary practice, but also the craft, social practices and performing arts that make us the country that we are.
Heritage Minister Baroness Twycross. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Sally Challoner, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.